Alessandro Palombo, Filipe Eusébio.
The world is changing so fast that accumulating passports is...
With exposure to Bitcoin, acquire Portuguese EU citizenship.
We have clients that are already investing 400,000 in a car or a million in a watch. Look at my 5 million collection. They open there. It's like, great, how many passports do you have? This many.
Yeah.
They start to wake up and it's like, okay, if I invested 5 million in this collection of watches.
A misconception that the golden visa is for wealthy people looking to accumulate passports, not the thing.
It is now possible to indirectly hold 500,000 euros in BTC and get an EU passport. From a single tweet to 3 months later meeting in person to discuss how this opportunity is going to open many new doors for people who are looking to set their flag in an EU country and get a citizenship.
And here we are since July 2024 that comment was made. Today, voila, with Alessandro Palombo and Filipe Eusébio. We have them here. Gentlemen, welcome. Talking about the opportunities that people still have today to get residency and even path to citizenship in Portugal. They are experts here, so all the questions are going to be clarified. I think that the first point to start is what's still valid, because there's this misconception, the myths. It changed, the golden visa is over, after the 23rd October 2023 that they changed the regulation and through real estate was not available anymore. What's up to date, Filipe?
Yeah.
What people can do to get residency?
2023 was a crazy year in Portugal, especially regarding the golden visa, because there was a lot of bad information ongoing on whether the program was going to be terminated or not completely. Ultimately, the government back then, the government that we had, took a proposal to Parliament to completely terminate it, and then Parliament saved the program by cutting off the real estate investment part of it, alongside another type of investment that was just capital transfer to a bank account in Portugal. So all the other options still maintained, namely job creation, cultural donation, fund investment, of course, the creation of jobs and capitalization of companies. So those are the options available. Being right now the most trendy one, of course, the fund investment. That's I would say 99% of the clients, it's the option that they're taking. And I think with what happened in 2023, the program took a while to regain a bit of its credibility. Right now it's booming. We are welcoming a lot of clients into the Golden Visa program through fund investment. There's a lot of funds in the market right now competing for their positions. And it's a new momentum in the Golden Visa, and actually a very interesting and very particular moment in venture capital investment in Portugal as well, because we always have a very small venture capital market, and the golden visa has brought a lot of, strength into venture capital in Portugal, opening a lot of opportunities. So we're really excited about what's happening right now. Yeah.
Great. So people have the option of the golden visa, where we're going to get in detail, and then the option of getting exposure to Bitcoin. That was the revolutionary tweet and the reason that got us here. Getting exposure to Bitcoin and gaining Portuguese citizenship. We're going to get into that in detail, of course. That's why both of them are here. However, for people who want a D2 visa, a D7 visa, what's the investment, what's the time requirement, what they should be aware of?
So it's a very good question, and actually when I welcome clients, I do Zoom calls with clients all over the world. Sometimes I have clients looking for D visas who end up in golden visas, and I have clients of golden visa who end up in D visas. So we're doing a lot of welcoming of clients for immigration, of course. And the particularity about the D visas, namely D2, D7, and D8, which are the most trendy. We do a lot of D3 for highly qualified professionals, but it's a different game.
Okay.
But D2, D7, and D8, our clients were actually looking to relocate. Okay, so as these type of residency permits, in order to be renewed, require a bigger permanence in Portugal in comparison with the golden visa, we advise these D visas for clients who effectively are coming over and establishing themselves in Portugal. I'll give you an example. For instance, D7 right now, really trendy for American clients who have retired. They have their pension. The requirement is not that big, so as long as you can demonstrate that you have passive income reaching at least 10,000 euro per year, you can effectively put up a case to the Portuguese consulate in the area of residence to obtain a D7 visa. We gather all the documents, a bit bureaucratic, okay, but we gather everything, submit the application to the consulate. In 60 working days, the consulate will come back to you with the visa. And in the visa, you'll have an appointment already for the biometric data collection here at the immigration authorities. Mm-hmm. And then after that appointment, up to 90 working days, you get your residency card. Mm-hmm. So it's very, I don't know, in comparison with the golden visa that takes a while to get, mm-hmm. It's very much faster. It's a very much more bureaucratic in terms of mm-hmm. the process per se, and it requires some permanence in the country in order to be renewed. Namely, 6 months. You cannot be absent of Portugal more than 6 months continuously, or okay. 8 months non-continuously. Okay. So it comes with that constraint. Mm-hmm. The golden visa, it's much more flexible. You need an average of 14 days per each period of 2 years in order to renew it. So it's really
so one is for people who want to, as you said, relocate here and live, and then eventually all the D1 to D8 lead to citizenship.
Absolutely.
After 5 years.
Every Portuguese residency permit leads to citizenship, from golden visa mm-hmm. to any other of the D options. Mm-hmm. Okay.
However, another important part is going to be tax optimization, because people that live here more than 6 months a year will have to pay taxes in Portugal. So what do they do? Because then there's the other drawer that we open is the NHR with all these misconceptions meets. What happened with the NHR?
We used to so the immigration department here at the firm, as well as the taxation department, work very closely. And while we still had the NHR, it was actually they were almost in the same room, because whenever we dwelt with a D7, for instance, or the D8, the immediate consequence would be that ultimately we'll submit the NHR application mm-hmm. for this client, and the client won't pay taxes on foreign income for 10 years and have lower taxes here on some types of Portuguese income. Now with the ending of the golden visa, again, taxes become a relevant issue, because Portuguese taxation is not friendly. Mm-hmm. We all know it. So the idea is, first and foremost, to ascertain which kind of earnings the client has, and what we don't even have to ask which kind of amounts the client earns, but we need to know the nature and where those amounts are earned, and then we qualify them according to the Portuguese law, check if Portugal has a double taxation treaty with that country, mm-hmm. and then give an overview of the client on whether it compensates for them in terms of taxation, and what to expect in terms of taxation whenever they relocate mm-hmm. to the country.
Yeah, okay. In a second, it would be great if we make an exercise of a practical example, somebody that makes $1 million a year and wants to pay taxes. But before that, I would love to know your opinion, Ale, because you are not Portuguese. You are Italian. You are from Rome. Sure. And you relocated here.
Well, I arrived in the probably right timing, because it was before the NHR 1.0 got removed. So I became an NHR resident before the end of 2023. So I was able to essentially benefit of this more advantageous tax regime in Portugal. But there is a so-called NHR.
There is, yes.
That actually has been, it's not yet operative, but it will become operative hopefully soon, because there is an administrative missing essentially element. And my personal take, and that's why I've been writing this guide that I will publish this weekend.
Yes.
Thanks also to the help of the INCA department of because I'm not qualified and I can't provide legal advice here, but I asked different friends and firms to confirm all this data, and essentially the NHR 2.0 would be a great opportunity. So I think a good message to share is also that NHR 1.0 was great until the end of 2023. And for 2024, there was this gap of, the new regime is not yet operative. But as soon as it will become operative, for certain categories of people, and specifically people working in tech, working in startups, digital nomads, essentially the regime is going to be very close to the NHR 1.0. For pensions, of course, the NHR 2.0, it doesn't apply. So the major difference between the two regimes is that with the new one, that will be hopefully in place maybe in 2, 3, 4 months, we don't know exactly when. If you are retired, okay, in this case, you will need to pay the progressive taxation regime in Portugal up to, if I'm not wrong.
Up towards the maximum? Here?
Yeah, we reach up to 48%. Yeah, it's tough.
That's tough.
And on the pensions. But if you're not if you're working essentially, there is a good chance that you could apply for the 2.0 and you essentially get almost the same on the 1.0. So I agree in my view. We need to be very careful and monitoring what happens in the next 4-6 months, because depending on how the implementation detailed rules will actually evolve, and maybe Portugal, very likely actually, Portugal is going to be back as a, in my view, prominent opportunity for relocating in terms of country with a very good tax regime for 10 years. And this is crucial because in 10 years, Europe.
There's a bit of a test and error because there's of course a concern around real estate prices. And there's a test on who's to blame about the increasing prices of real estate. So will it be the golden visa? So they took the real estate option that the prices have not decreased. Will it be the NHR? So they take the NHR out and the prices have not decreased. So there's
what's the reason? So what's the reason, do you think?
We became, I think, as a country, I always give this example because I always travel a lot for my profession. I used to reach the Middle East back in 2010, and I would say I was Portuguese. And now actually then I will have to explain that Portugal is a little strip of land right next to Spain in order to people to locate themselves. Right now, whenever I travel and I'm Portuguese, Portugal became very well known as a destination for relocation, for safety, for education. So we're kind of victims of our own success. What's missing is that more construction, more houses become available in the market. That Portuguese people can afford those houses. That's a very big concern. But blaming these programs who are very successful, who brought a lot of money to the country, I don't believe it's the right approach. And the numbers show it because even when they terminate the programs, the real estate prices keep on increasing.
Can I expand on this point briefly? Because I think this is a super interesting topic. I made, I guess, 10 days ago, a post on X on Portugal, and it got viral, so 5 million plus views, and I received, of course, a lot of support. But as always, when you go above 1 million threshold, you find also very, intense criticism. And I think I'm super happy that Filipe, as a Portuguese, essentially sharing this perspective, because I have many Portuguese friends, and the real estate price increases is a problem in many countries or cities of Europe, including it was in Europe in Rome or Milan. And I completely agree with your position, Filipe, which is essentially to be very practical. It's undeniable that there has been a problem that, of course, affects several generations of Portuguese people to be able to afford real estate. And this is a problem that it should be, of course, tackled. But at the same time, it can be connected to, there are people here working with laptops, equates problem for everyone, because also the number of essentially people who are relocated here under NHR or with any golden visa program it's so narrow compared to the total population. There can be that problem. There are also problems with the inheritance law regarding real estate. That's why there are many real estate pieces apparently that are not on the market because of other issues. In my view, I totally agree. These programs have been, in my view, one of the smartest choices from governments in Europe because they attracted talent. They attracted, also new actually operators, money flow, but also cultural flow. And in my view, Portugal has been handling this greatly because it's. We were chatting about this every. If you go to Madrid and you speak English, nobody will ask with you because, or in Italy, it's similar. So here, everywhere is different. So there is an amazing expat community, and these programs, and in my view, they contribute to the growth of the country. And as any country has some challenges, and I think Portugal is no exception to this rule. There are always, challenges that they should be tackled in the right way.
And also the type of people that attracts, because usually the smartest people or the ones who drive forward the development of countries or companies are the ones who want to also be tax optimized. Like I see a big correlation of people that are making 7 figures, 8 figures, and they don't like paying 20% or 48%. That's crazy, right? It's similar to Spain, 47%. So they look for these regimes because they know, okay, for the next 5-10 years here in Portugal or in Spain, we have the Beckham law, which is a similar regime for the first 5 years, and then the year that you incorporate, so 6, you can pay 0% tax on dividends or real estate gains that you make out of Spain. So it's really favorable. And then for the rest, the income is 24% flat rate. So many people are moving to Spain and looking for this 6-year window opportunity or the 10-year in Portugal. So these programs, I think, are attracting the right people, not the ones who want to take from the system or the government, but the ones who contribute. And as you say, come here with a laptop and build empires. You know, literally.
I agree 100%. And again, if the goal hasn't been achieved, meaning if terminating these programs haven't brought the prices down, then we should work out some other solutions and reinstate eventually. I come from a very small town in the border, close to the border with Spain, and Cuvilla, next to the mountains. And some Golden Visa projects were actually starting there in terms of student accommodation, which is a huge necessity there. With the closing of the real estate options, those programs have completely disappeared, so the projects are over. So it's a shame that we lost that opportunity out of studies that were not correct regarding the impact of the Golden Visa on real estate prices.
Now that you mentioned this, the Golden Visa, now the question remains for some people. What are the options that I have as an investor if I want to get a Golden Visa here in Portugal? So there's the investment fund, right? There's still arts and culture. It's okay. Company creation with 5 permanent job posts.
With a 500,000 investment into the company.
Great. So that one also check, verified. Scientific research still possible. Okay, and creation of 10 jobs.
10 jobs.
Okay, so these would be the 5 different options that people have right now. What would be the lowest threshold in terms of money? What's the
cultural option in low density territory?
For how much it goes?
200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's an option that exists in the law. Actually, there's a project approved by an entity called GPAC, which is a governmental entity that gives this Golden Visa stamp of eligibility to these sort of projects. It's pretty much whatever's there. It's pretty much donations. So you do a donation in this amount in a low density area of 200. You donate 200,000. You get the Golden Visa. Okay. That's the lowest option right now.
After that one, what would be the next one?
It would be 250 also on cultural option for whenever you're not doing, cultural option in non-low density territories, in high density territories. So you would invest 250,000. There's, for instance, expositions by foundations. Serralves in Porto has done multiple projects with the cultural option for 250,000. And it's also donation. You donate the money and you get the Golden Visa.
Okay, then we're going to talk about the catch of the Golden Visa. We're going to get into that in a second. But what would be the next one, the next layer?
€500,000. So you would have €500,000 into... Actually, if you want to calculate one of the options, which is the 10 job creation, if you calculate 10 jobs, the cost on a minimum wage over a period of 5 years...
How much is it?
The minimum wage in Portugal right now, €820 gross per month. Okay. It reaches up to €500,000 in 5 years. Okay. So it's probably about it's not probably, it's around the same thing. And then you have company
creation,
company capitalization, because the company can already exist. Okay. But you need to put €500,000 into that company as well, and scientific research the same, €500,000.
Okay. And investment fund and venture capital as well, €500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, which we're going to get in detail on what investment fund allows you to get exposure in Bitcoin, and then get the Golden Visa. However, there's a catch here, and you're going to confirm or deny the backlog that there is right now. IMI Daily posted a graph mentioning that Portugal is the one with the biggest wait time since from application until Golden Visa. They put here in the graph 36.2 months of wait time. That's 3 years and 2 months. Is that accurate?
It is not. It's almost accurate, but not completely accurate. And so to give you a practical example, right now the only clients I have waiting for the residency card, for the Golden Visa cards, are those clients who submitted in the last days of 2021. December 2021. So a client that submitted in October 2021 already has the card. August 2021, the same. So these clients have already been to biometrics, done everything, and they have the cards.
In what period of time?
from the moment of submission, which would be October, November 2021, until last car was received. That was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay. So.
But then that's 3 years. We are shooting this. It's October 2024.
It's not inaccurate what Imi is saying, but the experience is, we need to bear in mind that the last days of 2021 were awful, meaning that the law was changing. There was huge submission of applications back then. Okay, so in fact, those people who submitted last few days of that particular year, we were pulling hair. A lot of my gray hairs come from those days. Those people submitted in the last days of 2021 are the ones who are facing the hugest delay, because it's like there was a constraint in the flow of the flow was not amazing, but there was a bigger constraint in the flow of applications back then. So in fact, those applicants, and I have a lot of applicants from those last days, are the ones who are right now in the toughest position. I'm an optimistic by nature, and there's a good news ahead of us, because immigration became an issue after last election. So extreme right always, as all the extreme rights, has immigration as a point of concern. And they brought to the table the fact that we were, and in many ways we are, operational in dealing with immigration applications, namely those who were submitted through a system that we used to have, which was the expression of interest. Through the expression of interest, you would come out of, I don't know, the United States with a tourist visa, you would find a job here, and you would go online, register in the system, and bang, you would have immediately an ongoing immigration file, allowing you to stay in Portugal indefinitely until you get called for an interview. Okay, a lot of people took that option. Really, a lot of people took that option, and it started creating constraints in the ability of the immigration authorities to process their applications, up to the level of reaching 400,000 pending applications between expression of interest, golden visas, and all the other immigration routes that we have in the law. This government, immediately after taking office, ended the option of the expression of interest, so that possibility was completely cut, and promised in June 2024 to clear the backlog in 12 months. So we are expecting that in June 2025, the 400,000 applications would be over. Now, one could question, if they didn't have means, are they hiring crazy people to come and
AI, maybe ChatGPT is working 24/7.
And they were really clever, I must say, because what they did was they engaged with the Bar Association, with the Solicitors Association, and said, we need help. So not immediately, but very quickly, 3,000 lawyers and solicitors jumped on board to assist the government in clearing this backlog. And we have 6,000 extra hands dealing now with all these applications, which we believe it's the right approach to clear the backlog until the deadline that they gave. At the same time, they opened a big appointment center, mostly for expression of interest applicants. Okay, so people were started, when we have some clients in that program, clients were notified to pay a fee, a 400 euro fee. I think that fee was also a clever move, because whoever did not pay means that they're not in the country anymore, so you just get rid of those applications. Whoever paid start being called to these appointments, to collection of biometrics. So things are moving. So common question for a client coming today to the Golden Visa is, well, if I'm gonna wait 24, 30 months, 36 months for my Golden Visa, maybe I won't take it. Well, my answer is, that timeline, if the government keeps the promise, and with what we're seeing, will start decreasing. Hopefully, and I think potentially it's at reach to the timelines that we used to have before COVID, which was getting a Golden Visa in 6 to 9 months. But it won't happen from one day to the other. So the 30 months will go 24 to 20, 24 to 20 to 18, something along those lines. If ultimately in June there are no more 400,000 applications in the system, it means that we can go back to a more normal streamline of applications and normal timings, even though timings, when compared for instance with Spain, which are very fast granting the cards, or with Greece, which are very fast as well, not as fast anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Still.
Greece kind of boom as well. Crazy.
But eventually going back to that 6 to 9 months, it's reasonable. Yeah, which is actually, for instance, a D visa. I take 6 to 7 months to get the card ultimately. If we go back to that in a golden visa, which I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, that would make this option, again, even more attractive. Absolutely. It's already attractive, but the timeline, because now we have some clients that we are recommending them to get others if they have this urgency to get into the Schengen area, which they want because they have passports that don't allow to travel here. They usually go for Latvia. Because in 1 to 3 months they just get Schengen and then they enjoy the benefits. And by the time that they apply for Latvia, next week they are also applying for Portugal. So by the time month 3 they have Latvia, they already start traveling with the family and everything. And then Portugal, they are not in a rush anymore. You know, and eventually they're going to get the Portuguese citizenship and then they're just going to sell the property in Latvia or just get a buyback for the company donation, investment they made, etc. So that would bring, again, a lot of popularity to Portugal. But something also worth noticing is that it's not infrequent. This thing that happened in Portugal, the huge influx of people and applicants, it also happened in Greece, as you know. Turkey as well, before it was 3 months. It was damn fast. And now it's not 3 months anymore. Caribbean as well, another popular CBI. Not anymore. It's not that fast, 6 months. You know, so we are seeing this wave of people that are waking up. You know, and I think this is really good for the industry in general, because we see that it's not just Portugal, it's everywhere that people are like rushing into RBI's CBI programs and securing these
Miguel,
travel
also
documents.
Tells you a bit about how the world's going. I was fishing in Mexico last March, and with a lot of Americans fishing with me. And of course they knew about Portugal, they have friends living here, but they were asking me, why, I don't really understand why my friends relocated and are trying to get a Portuguese passport. We have an American passport. It's fine, but the world is changing so fast that accumulating passports is like having an asset, and especially passports that you can transmit to future generations. So immediately, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in 20 years, not even next year. So imagine in 20 and 40 and 60 years. So the ability of being global, effectively global, that you can travel and you can go anywhere, it's a plus. And COVID taught us all a lesson. We had clients with golden visas who were in troubled countries. We immediately got on a plane and went to somewhere safer in Europe, and that was adamant for them to understand the importance and the relevance of that card.
Totally. And also, Filipe, it's becoming a sign of a status to get to stack residencies and to collect citizenships. But I say it's a useful status. Because we have clients that are already investing 400,000 in a car or $1 million in a watch, you know, and they have a collection of watches. Like, look at my 5 million collection. They open there. It's like, great. How many passports do you have? This many. Right? And they start to wake up and it's like, okay, if I invested 5 million in this collection of watches, what am I doing? You know? And then they start collecting these citizenships in a legal way, one by one. And in a matter of 5 years, they have a solid portfolio. Right? And this is something, as you say, the watch as well, you can pass it down, but the car will probably not pass down a Lambo, Ferrari, or whatever to your kids. However, your kids, your grandkids, everything, like the next generations can pass on the citizenship. And this is the magic of it. Also, Ale was touching before on the other room about the vision of 20 years from now. We don't know where the world is going to be. Like anybody that says, I know where it's going to be exactly 2044, it's like, come on, bro. You don't. You don't. You know? So you'd rather have all the options open and then you can relocate in a snap of a finger instead of, crisis, or as you said, COVID, lockdown, and then want to start the process of, let me start getting a citizenship when everybody's going to rush, full backlogs, and also during COVID, like the services were dormant. So they would not start issuing passports like hotcakes, you know, como pan caliente. Que decimos en español.
Exactly.
So, yeah, this is something that you'd rather do 5 years too early or 1 year too early than 1 day too late.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is something that makes interesting this idea of getting the Portuguese citizenship. And we can now go a bit deeper on the investment funds, the venture capital. First, in general, what would you say are the risks, both of you, that you are burst into this? You created the Unbound fund, or you're related to Unbound fund. I know that there's more people in this project, but you've studied a lot. What would you say are the benefits and also the risks into investing in this? Because it's venture capital. You know, it's not like I'm going to put the money and in 5 years I'm going to make profit, right? If it was a guaranteed, then I know that by law it's prohibited, right? You cannot guarantee a positive ROI in 5 years. So what are the risks of putting capital here in exchange for a passport in 5 years?
Shall I take it? Yeah, I can take it. Yeah, okay, good, very good. So after dealing with the venture capital investment for quite some time now, with a lot of clients who are coming in, you can tell that the motivation of funds varies. So you have riskier funds and less riskier funds. You have funds acting as banks, and you have funds really investing in industry and searching for unicorns. So it comes a lot from the perception of the client about the fund and the market that the fund is reaching. For instance, you have funds doing sustainability, and that resonates a lot with some clients, and say, well, I'm all for sustainability. It has to do with environment protection. I'll put the money in. I don't even care about the numbers. Let's go ahead and put the money there. It is, in fact, an option that does guarantee your capital back. Okay, and I myself, as a lawyer, I'm not a financial advisor. What I do is provide direct contact between fund manager and the client, and also explain to the client that the market here under this sector is highly regulated. So we have we interacted quite a few times with the regulator here. It's called CMVM, and it's a tough one, okay? And investor protection is their utmost concern. Okay, so whenever they rally fund managers, search for documents, see if onboarding was properly made, so it's a tough one. And that gives me peace of mind when my clients are investing in funds in Portugal. I know the regulator is a true regulator in Portugal. Okay, so that works. Then in terms of where to invest, as a lawyer, I keep aside. I let the fund managers and the fund promoters do their job, explain their motivations, explain how they will act with the client's money, and then ultimately it's the client's decision to take this or that investment. Yeah.
I really like this overview. That's what I wanted to go first. So I completely agree with Filipe. Also, from my perspective, it's a highly regulated market, which means if you want to run a private equity fund here with the fund manager as a promoting as a promoter, it's a serious commitment, and therefore the real risk actually, in my view, belongs on the type of investment that the investor decides to do via private equity fund. And a private equity fund must transparently explain upfront to every potential investor what is going to be the investment strategy they're going to follow. So they will need to specify which is the target market, which is the target of companies, the strategy used for selecting an investment, building the pipeline, and so far and so on. In this spectrum of various private equity funds in Portugal, I was personally seriously surprised by the variety of offerings, because it's incredible. In the Golden Visa eligible funds in Portugal, there are funds dealing with so many different matters. So in my view, the real risk is it depends on the fund. It depends on how the fund has been structured, and the investor should do his own due diligence on every fund, especially checking out, in my view, also the cost structure at each level, because there are funds where there are different kind of models. So funds that invest purely in startups and therefore are akin pure the venture capital model, like early stage VC, for example. And as you know, in VC market, also the VC, everybody knows that 90% of startups fail, but no, it's not sufficiently said that also early stage venture capital, apparently, according to statistics, 50% of them, they're not capable of giving back the money. So this was something I read about the States. So it is true, doing startup and early stage startup is risky. Doing also a PC and early stage investment is always risky. It doesn't mean that, you are investing money, therefore you are the casino of, and therefore you always win. No, it doesn't work like this. So there are also private equity funds investing in companies. Well, I saw some funds here that invest in public companies in Portugal. So they present a different risk profile and, of course, different reward. High risk, high reward is the general rule. So if I think the real risk is depending on the type of fund, how it's structured, and there are different opportunities. So in my view, this is the real investment decision from an investor perspective. If they seek more stability versus maybe more reward, and then of course there are thematic funds, like for example those ones dedicated to sustainability, which eventually present and are based also on a different driver, on investment driver, which is not purely just I look at money and get a reward. There is also a philosophy behind. Maybe we belong partially to that category, maybe because we effectively, indirectly, we end up being a thematic fund, and we attracted people who, in the end, they believe in specifically in Bitcoin technology and Bitcoin long term.
Totally. Because have you seen, both of you, maybe you are more involved in this, Filipe, people investing the $500,000 and getting the citizenship 5 years later, but having lost the $500,000? Like,
no.
What's the most you've seen somebody in a real case losing?
I never saw a client losing so far.
Okay.
Knock on wood. Okay. So funds, but you must say that my clients are more conservative. Okay. I've never, and I try to work as much as I can with fund managers that reply to clients that are on top of things. But so far it hasn't happened.
And for how many years?
I've been doing the golden visa since the beginning of the program, but more investment on venture capital started like in 2016, something like that.
And when's the beginning of the program? Just to have a reference. 2012, and then 2016 more the investment part.
No, the real estate was ruling the market.
And also the returns. Usually investors are familiar with real estate more probably than venture capital. I'm sure that many is the first time ever they're doing this, and they are doing it incentivized by the citizenship. If not, they would probably not put their money in venture capital, right? So real estate was, of course, like, let's do it. I already have 5 properties. I know how it works. Let's sign the paper.
Exactly.
I see here as well in the FAQ that, by the way, everybody that is watching this, there's going to be the FAQ link below. Unbound funds. That's the second part says managing entities. I see Green One Capital, which is a fund manager as part of Emerald Group. Can you tell us more about why you decided to partner together? What led the decision?
Sure. So, when you build these kind of products and operations, in my view, it's not only a matter of, okay, you know how to do it or you have prior experience. Because in our case, so my co-founder, Ziu, she already promoted a successful fund in real estate before the law changed. And that's why we knew all these partners, including Bruno, including Green One Capital. So when it came to, and then maybe I will tell you later how this whole idea was born, and we wanted to play in the safest way possible. So we made our homework, our due diligences, our legal opinions on any possible angle. And in my view, it's very important to work with fund managers, entities who have concrete experience besides theoretical knowledge, which means they've been in the market for years. So Green One Capital specifically, they have been managing funds since 2016. They are currently managing 9 different funds. 4 out of 9 are golden visa funds. And all the C-level of Green One Capital, they have they proper experience in the private equity market for more than 30, or in some cases, I think close to 40 years, because they are a bit in different geographic range. So what we wanted to offer, partnering with Green One Capital, was proper experience and also direct knowledge of also market dynamics, regulatory dynamics, besides the just the theory. So this is generally an approach that I always advise to follow, and we very successfully partnered up with them in the sense of, making sure that this kind of offering respects all the different legal requirements. And that's why we chose them, because it's important to have you been in the market for many years before you launch something like this.
Totally. And I think it's so critical that we talk about the team part, because eventually, like, all these funds with names and logos and offices, there's people behind, and they need to understand that it's not real estate. It's like, and I run a company, right? That's why I know that the team is crucial. For example, here we have Gabriel, amazing, shooting the content, making everything look good. He's making us look good, right? And the team is crucial. And having the right players, it's just the difference between, losing money or, like you said, choosing well. And since 2016, knocking on wood, nobody's losing money,
it's
right?
a normal question from clients.
Because it's venture capital, it's companies.
Yeah, at the same time, as a lawyer, I act with the trust of my clients, and they normally ask me, do you know these guys? Have you worked with them before?
Exactly.
So it's reassuring for me to be able to work with people that I've been with before, and I know where they, not knowing where they live, but almost, okay? So it's reassuring for the clients, of course.
100%. That's why it's good that we talked about the partners you chose and why you chose them.
Yeah.
And if I can say, it's something also on this regard. So on one side, we had Going On Capital. On the other side, for when a potential client LP comes to us, we always tell them, well, if you have your own lawyer already, go for it. We can be just a fund. But in case you want to be assisted from essentially A to Z, you are absolutely welcome. And the reason why, so personally, I come from a legal background before doing startups, and I always say I really like this law firm, Filipe and Tim. Thanks. Because to be very frank, objectively, it's not easy to find productivity in communication. And in my view, if you do family law, immigration, so matters which are personal, it's not just purely business. It's fundamental to offer a very bespoke and personal touch, and so every day I wake up or at the middle of the day I see 5, 6, 7 emails from Anna, Bruno, Filipe, Joao to LPs of us, and there is bureaucracy. So the reason why, in my view, to give you my take, for Golden Visa funds, the team is even more important, because it's not just I invest money. No, I invest money and I need to be assisted to gain a residency permit, and eventually after 5 years, citizenship or permanent residency, depending on your preference. And in all these years, I need to be assisted. And I will have questions today, in 6 months, in 18 months. 100%. I experience. And at Unbound, we also will do in 2025, starting actually next year, private events with LPs, which in my view would be very cool. And they will resonate, I think, very well with all the vision you have for your channel. And when we will do it, I will tell you are absolutely welcome, and they will be very nice events with amazing, interesting people.
Picking up on this take from Ale, because there's a misconception that the Golden Visa is for wealthy people looking to accumulate passports. Not the thing. So I have clients who have saved their entire life to be able to do this investment, because it's something they leave for their children. I have clients who never had a passport. They have a refugee passport. So having first passport for them through the Golden Visa, it's emotional. It's emotional for them, and it's emotional for us. So you really commit to people and commit to delivery of ultimately what they want, which is a safe access to the program, and then being able to complete the 5 years and then be granted citizenship. So if you ask me, for any of your clients, the Golden Visa is just something they do for fun. It's not. There's always a purpose into it, and it's always profiles. A very emotional application on getting granted the card, being able to then access the passport. And I'm talking about from people from Hollywood to people who come from the Palestinian, from Palestine. So,
with refugee passports.
So you can imagine the
spectrum
the
is
spectrum
broad,
is
right?
huge.
Yeah, totally. And being guided by a firm that, as you said, it's there next to you during all this time.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years is a long time. And then after you get that, you will still be attached to the country, as you said, emotionally in some way.
Yeah.
For years to come and for generations to come. And you want to know that that person or that firm that helped you, that team from the beginning, is going to be there for years. So it's an asset. You're also investing in that team that is also going to receive some funds, some fees to continue growing, etc. You're investing in them to be like, okay, you're an asset. In 5 years, you're going to be even better. You're going to keep expanding, right?
Yeah.
And the personal touch that you were mentioning, it's so important. Actually, I'm interested in knowing, before we get into the details of how people can hold exposure in Bitcoin and get Portuguese citizenship, the product itself, how you two, Jens, how you met? When was the first time you shook hands, looked in the eye, met in person?
Because of Zio.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So my co-founder, essentially, she knew already the firm. I don't remember.
She did it because of another client of ours. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Relationships are like cherries. Yeah. So So
Well, to be the full story actually is that once we had this initial idea, we needed to make sure that this was feasible, and then we started having a few chats. And there is one of the largest players in the world in the migration market, who was cooperating with my co-founder on the previous golden visa. And this guy actually is the founder, is a bit older than us, has been with us, very nice, and they are probably one of the largest worldwide. And we're not going to mention the name for privacy, but this company, large one, is one of the clients of Filipe and Ana Bruno, and we said, okay, we need to go and meet an elbow. So we did a few meetings, and we resonated more with this firm, and then that's why and plus there's the press bar. We go to the same gym.
Yeah.
Club 7?
And we both cycle, so it's good. Yeah.
You play tennis as well?
No, he's yet to teach me one day. Let's see.
But I'm not as good as him in cycling.
You're into cycling.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I goes on my back every time I do videos in my office, the little office in the house office. I have a bike, a good bike on my back, and that's why we. So it's also good because in the end, I was after the tweet that when the first one went viral. I think these matters are it's like if you work with an extended team and the comprehensive solutions to be. It's like to be more or less in proximity and all in the same office, and this helps also. The simple need, even the iteration with new ideas, and that's why one of the many reasons we started working together, and I was, for me it was the migration legal actually dynamic were new to be frank, and I learned a lot. I'm learning a lot, and there is not one single case exactly the same to the other. So there are 500, different cases, each one with its own nuances. Because they affect the life of people. So you need to be really on top of it. And
it's always a different question. You think you've covered everything, but then some person has one idea and asks you, and you need to go back to the law, check everything, see what's.
And indeed, if I can add something on the previous point, because I think, the future is going to be for sure in composability of different, citizenships, residencies, eventually jurisdictions where you have company structures. And when you say these words, automatically your mind goes to, this is going to be the multinational company with 500 billion annual revenues. No, I think this dynamic and these roots, there is a personal and eventually emotional component behind it, because sometimes, for example, we are European, we are born in Spain, so for us, maybe we give or Portugal, we give for granted a lot of things, but in working in this field, I'm learning what we give for granted here. There are places in the world where it's absolutely ungranted. So it's not when it comes to citizenship, it's not just freedom, and you imagine in this way, like someone like Peter Thiel, from a few hundreds of millions of net worth, having a vision of somehow superiority. No. There is a different set of needs for normal people, for successful people, for also proactive people in life who succeed and are daily putting a lot of work, that they need stability. And in my view, this is also a component of this kind of offerings. And one last point is, in this kind of game, there is often the inclination eventually to think, I buy citizenship, I edge the system, but this is a non-zero-sum game ultimately, because when you have, when the world has changed so much. So it's one of my favorite books is The Sovereign Individual, 1997. And if you look at how the concept of state, nation, and evolved, and how the internet impacted on it, and how borders today are much less relevant than 20 years ago, you come to the conclusion that probably, mobility, even across countries, it's not only feasible, but arguably it's also useful. Why? Because if you enable competition between governments, you ultimately, in the short term, maybe someone very smart and with capital eventually will move from country A to Portugal. But in this dynamic creates pressure on a government which is inefficient, a government which is eventually corrupted, quote unquote, because if they're offering, enabling people to move away, this pressure in the medium and long term will create an improvement for everyone in that country, because the innovation brought by the government will be beneficial for everyone. So these are the notes that usually when we discuss, golden visas, they're not always clear. In my view, it's a good level.
Yeah, totally different profiles. And by the time that you shared the idea, it was born together, or you already had the idea and then you went to Filipe?
He's the owner
I was like,
of the idea.
Hey, I have this idea. Listen to this. Let's check if this is legal, Filipe.
He actually did a pre-validation first with another law firm, and I told him, don't show me that legal opinion. I'll do my own, and then we'll match. And it was matching because the fund ticks all the dots that I'm always searching whenever I do diligence a fund on the immigration law, so everything is there. So for me, it was an immediate conclusion.
When was the date that the idea was started to be born?
So, in October 2023, there was this change of the law, right? And in Saudi real estate became an area not anymore eligible for investments. And at the time, my co-founder, Ziu, she was, I don't remember, but she was still promoting somehow the Golden Visa Fund. And suddenly, now this kind of opportunity is going to end in October. And I've been doing tech in different sectors, and I spent many years in Web3 specifically. So almost as a joke, I don't remember, maybe it was one evening, we started saying with you, we should really do maybe, why not we do maybe, it's private equity fund. And the initial version was eventually investing in different kind of, let's call them crypto companies to simplify, or protobots. And then so this was October, November. And then this idea somehow evolved over the time, but I didn't have that much time in November or December to because I was very busy on my previous project. And when the other project was somehow not anymore on the table, we essentially very early 2024 of this year, we started trying to put all the things together, and we got the CMDM registration. I think it was the 24th of May, and then in May it was registered, and we needed time to prepare, and then we launched it in July. And
then you talked to Filipe before the tweet, right? The tweet was actually 23rd of July.
I think yes. I think we started talking about it before that.
I think it was. I think it was before CMB. I think it was March.
Yeah.
We started going around and selecting,
You're right.
It was February, March.
Yeah. And then that day, let's get to the moment when you hit send, were in your phone or your laptop, right? And you hit send, 23rd of July. Were you expecting this boom? Because this tweet today, after all the retweets and quotes and all of this, has 997,000 views. Today in the morning, it's almost 1 million. So, did you expect all of this boom, this popularity?
To be frank, no. And the reason why, because I launched many things in many startups in the previous years, and sometimes you expect great eventually acceptance or reaction, and then there is no. So this time we arrived actually the okay. I'm telling you that for the first time, I think the story behind it. I had a few interactions with I'm a few people in crypto in general, and the sentiment was mixed. So there were some people literally telling me this is no-brainer. So I really collected the word no-brainer a few times. But there were also very smart people and very, I would say, expert very experienced people in tech in general, Web 2, Web 3, with exits, successful investors who were not really convinced. And specifically, there was one guy who was very negative, and he essentially advised me, don't do it. They're going to waste your time. Do it. And we reflected on this negative feedback because eventually they're always worth, especially when they come from experienced people. And with you, we said, no, we still think this makes sense, and we went solidly on this route. But then, I push click to be the story is that I didn't even plan that day specifically, okay, because we were busy in already. I don't remember if he already. Yes, we already had a partner before the tweet. We already had partners for distribution. And that's why I wrote it in the tweet, and the tweet has even one typo, okay. Because for me, it was like, okay, before this was the first time in my life I went viral. And we went viral. As always, when you go viral, we found magazines taking part of my tweet selectively and or misinterpreting, because I didn't do a tweet thinking of, this is going to be read by 500,000 people plus. And after that, I learned a bit how, and so my account was at that time, I think, had 1,300 followers. Now we are on the late of October, and my account has 30,500. So I did about 30x in, I did 90 million of impressions in the last 12 weeks, because I learned how, I knew how to do, somehow to be a bit more in the content game, and I specific plans for the future. But this was completely random, although to be frank, I did an academy before it for actually writing online. And this sounds like a story like testimonial.
Well, the proof is that it's not the only one. Actually, you have another that had 5.5 million views, another one that 22 million views about Uruguay. Crazy, so it's not a one hitter. You did it repeatedly, like 5.5, 22 million, like you have multiple viral tweets.
And it was after the first time was more, I would say, unplanned, and then the subsequent ones, no. We are trying to build a specific audience, and to be frank, so I also brought an article that I'm going to publish in 1 year, not now, about 5 or 6 stories after we went viral the first time, of people contacting us. And honestly, for me, entrepreneurially, this was the first time where I experienced what hyper or critical product market fit means, which doesn't mean to sell one product for 100% of the market. No, it eventually is to find the product that makes 0.001% of the people crazy for it, like craving for it. And we had, so the first LPs we got also people not liking our offering, fine, but we got also people who became immediate fan and supporters of what we did, and even friends somehow, even from the first call. And that they were actually asking us, why don't we organize LP meetings and so far and so on. That, as always, business is always, challenging, and you don't need to, maybe it's not a good idea to, there is an expression in Italian, I can't translate in English, but to...
How is it in Italian? Say it in Italian.
Sedersi sulle allori, which means to sit on a specific, plant, usually...
Los laureles. In Spanish.
Yeah.
In English, I don't know. But we are taking notes here between the three.
For me, it was more a learning process, to be frank, an empty one, but it was a great opportunity to learn many things and this put in perspective also many of my previous and future choices also professionally. And for me, most importantly, behind this product, there is a lot of learning about, how we can help families or different types of investors and people. And we hope to, and we look forward actually to grow this initiative a lot in the next 6-12 months, but maintaining really this personal touch. But yeah, that tweet, that post probably, in any case, things we can change, things can evolve, In any case, from a philosophical perspective, that post really has been different, a moment that I can...
The inflection point, right? Totally.
The inflection point.
And it reads, get exposure in Bitcoin and acquire Portuguese EU citizenship. It is now possible to acquire Portuguese EU citizenship by indirectly holding Bitcoin, which we're going to explain in a second, worth 500,000 euros. I'm excited to introduce unboundfund.com. Ali was writing, Unbound Fund is the first Golden Visa eligible fund that gives you exposure to Bitcoin. As an integrated solution, Unbound has 3 key reasons why it is unique. The company's Unbound Fund invests in, ensure, number 1, 100% Bitcoin passive holding, no market timing. Number 2, BlackRock ETFs for security and simplicity. And number 3, total transparency. Investors rely on BDO audits. Additionally, we are radically transparent regarding any costs, striving to be as capital efficient as possible. And it ends with, I believe it's time to use Bitcoin as a tool for freedom of movement in a mutually beneficial way with Portugal, a country I have chosen to live in with my family. Those are the words that you wrote.
These the words, and sometimes
And that was boom.
some of them are more, I told them in crypto terms. So I realized, after a bit of time, after this became viral at the time, I realized, and that's why we made so much effort in clarifying some aspects. So I used one word specifically in a more crypto term, but essentially this is that's why I mentioned also the companies the fund invested. So the structure is a private equity fund investing in one company or more than one, depending on how the things will evolve. And this company is a Portuguese investment company. So the company main primary scope is to invest is on assets, 100% of it, in Bitcoin ETFs in this case, and as a company pays taxes in Portugal. So you create a direct and indirect value for the economy. Now, there are different ways of seeing this from a more philosophical perspective, but it's like if there is a technology, in this case Bitcoin, and an asset, and the expected growth of this asset will, thanks to this solution, also be generating some direct revenues, let's say, let's call it as it is for the treasury of the state, so via taxation. So this is the more practical aspect, but there are also many more, including this is one of those initiatives that directly and indirectly we are promoting Portugal and are promoting also tech and specifically eventually Web3 adoption in Portugal. Why? Because we're attracting people who, in many cases, they are very active with their own project in Web3 specifically, or sometimes in AI. And these people, now they are willing to spend time here. Then some of them are going to relocate here. And I had some LPs that are moving here in Q1, in Q2 2025. And this creates all value for this company. State somehow. It was and that's why it was so criticized. Fast forward 2024, Bitcoin instead is becoming adopted by governments. Is becoming mined by smaller governments. And BlackRock, for example, which was or JP Morgan, whatever, all these financial institutions which were saying, no, this is a rat poison and now they're all getting instead exposure with ETFs on Bitcoin and other assets. So in this historical moment, with an institutionalization of the asset, in my view, connecting with this integrated solution, because it's not a direct investment and it's not self-custody for sure. And in my view, this is really, in my view, on point, because it enables modern investors and families to indirectly maintain an exposure on an anti-inflationary asset, which is Bitcoin, meanwhile accruing the right of a golden visa and eventually a citizenship after 5 years. And at the same time, they bring value directly and indirectly on the country. So I this is very on point. Yeah, that's why probably we went live. It was not because of poetry. They were the post with
your skills with writing academy online. But as any revolutionary idea that it's pioneer, because it says it's the first golden visa eligible fund that gives you exposure to Bitcoin. When you hear this, Filipe, what's your first reaction? If, for example, now he's not listening to us, Ali's not listening to us.
Knew it
what
already,
was the first reaction when he's like, I have an idea, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
So I've built a lot of golden visa products in the past. So my first thing that comes to my mind is, does it meet all the requirements? So I need to follow the law, because in the mentality of the immigration authorities, they have a book and they will check, Is the fund maturity at least 5 years? Is the fund investing in Portuguese companies at least 60%? So I know what's on their mind. So the first thing I ask is, how are you buying them? And as long as the model is what the law says it should be, which is having a fund investing in Portuguese company at least 60% of its dimension, for me it's fine. Right there, I meet all the requirements and it's done. So even though there was a lot of reactions, I was able to follow them mostly by competitors who were trying to figure out, wow, this guy had an amazing idea. For me, it was always a no-brainer because my client protection is I'm safe to send their application to the immigration authorities. In 5 years, they reach their goals. So that's what's on my mind. Then I of course, read the regulations of the fund and everything that's check if there's no real estate on it and everything is fine. But the fund from the first moment to me was on an immigration perspective, pretty much a no-brainer. It filled all the everything that it has to be filled. Yeah.
Were you exposed to Bitcoin, to cryptocurrency before Ali came with this idea?
Well, I have lots of clients because I have a lot of these D8 clients coming out of the US who were crypto investors, so I learned a lot from it. Portugal was and still is pretty much a friendly environment for crypto investors because there was no taxation whatsoever. You're still not taxed as long as you hold those cryptocurrencies for over 1 year and you don't act as a trader. So we have a lot of clients doing crypto investments here in the firm. So I've been exposed to that world quite a few times.
Okay, and it's still today valid that if somebody buys Bitcoin today and sells in 1 year and 1 day, it's going to be zero tax?
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's another really interesting data point here, validated by a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
And the 14 days every 2 years.
Yeah, correct.
That's in my view because after this we've been
the two great decisions of Portugal as a government, right?
Yeah.
In my view, this is it's so beneficial it's win-win. It's very hard to imagine, especially after the clarification about how the real estate price increase. What happened in periods also validating why it was not connected to golden visa. In my view, this is in my personal perspective, this is the best program that has been built for sure in Europe because it gives the freedom to the investors to reside or not reside. At the same time, it's a very serious commitment. Every aspect is seriously regulated. There is a lot of serious also scrutiny, and I think this is the right approach for a serious country as Portugal. So, in my view, this is very, very much on point. And it's no coincidence why in the end, Portugal became one of probably the best actually, place for expats and for young finalists who are location independent.
Yeah. We have great food as well. So.
Yeah, and weather.
And weather. And one thing which is safety. Safety became an issue worldwide. So
tell us more. Yeah.
The sense of still being able to walk in the street at night and not being fearful of what may happen, being able to send your children. I have 2 young boys. One is 13 and the other one is 10. And you were talking a few moments ago how we as Europeans don't resonate to the difficulties many times that people have in their own countries.
Yes, true.
So the ability to walk in the street in Lisbon, actually one stranger thing, the ability of drinking water from the tap, which is something you do naturally. It's strange for a lot of people throughout the world. So it's a strange concept.
Yeah.
So
and when I travel,
I have a lot of clients saying, can I effectively drink from the tap? You can.
You're not going to die.
Everything is fine. So that kind of thing made Portugal as a destination. But it's beyond a destination. It's a place that really welcomes you. That you find no segregation between, despite of the race you have, the religion you have. So it's a very welcoming environment, and makes me proud as a Portuguese, of course. And at the same time, really, really happy to see so many people from so many places coming over.
Indeed, on this point, because at this point, you see, I leave it bit for granted. So I mean, first of all, I'm learning Portuguese. So
Muito
That's a
bom.
must.
so simple even for
Maybe for Spanish, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
so-
What do you
so.
think? You speak Spanish and
I speak
Portuguese?
Spanish and Portuguese,
What do
but
you think?
I think, I mean, if you get the hang, as a Spanish, there are some words that are different, but you'll get there. I have a Lebanese client who's just learned Portuguese,
Yeah.
so it's
No excuses,
So there's
right?
no excuses
Yeah, yeah.
whatsoever.
But we have
yeah.
it easier, I think. Yeah.
for
A
me,
bit
it was
easier.
like, oh, what's the problem? I will go there in 2 weeks.
Latin, right? Yes.
Especially for the grammar, etc. But I love the language. I love the food from Italy. It is amazing, and the safety point is crucial. And I totally agree because I come from Roma originally. I lived abroad for 4 years, but every big city, Rome, Paris, I guess also Madrid. During night you need. There are always some areas where you need to be a bit conscious, at least, or aware. In general, even Lisbon, you need, as always, statistics.
Yeah, of course.
10 years, there's always something that can happen. But in general, it's a very safe environment. And one thing that for me was objectively unique, and I invite anyone who wants to visit Portugal to try this out, is Lisbon is the capital. And this is one of probably the only capital, at least I had the chance to spend so much time, where you drive with your car within 30, 40 minutes of range, and within 30, 40 minutes you find 50 different areas, from mountain or like more hiking kind of trails to surfing spots to beaches and every area has his own culture and his own, I would say, not just culture, his own vibe, I would say. And this is amazing because if you live in Singapore, for example, you can't, unless you want to go to Johor in Malaysia, you can't really go out from the city and experience also other vibes. Here you can go to Alentejo, you can go to Parica, Comporta, Sintra, Setúbal, so far and so on. I can mention 50. So this is incredible, even if you want to. In my view, Miquel, I don't know what you think, but in my view, digital nomadism has already evolved, and it will evolve, in my view, prioritizing more off-the-grid locations. So
Especially now after Starlink and these technologies come into play and they get more user-friendly, then instead of antennas, you can just plug it into this with a online plan you bought, package of X amount of gigabytes, boom, your phone.
In my view, Starlink Mini is going to do to nomadism and in general location-independent entrepreneurs what the internet did on business, in the sense of yesterday you had to be concerned about the Wi-Fi connectivity in Thailand versus Portugal. Today it's like an iPad. You literally put, and whatever you're in the world with, I think $70 per month, you have fast internet connection, and this will change a lot in my view. The trajectories of relocation, because you don't, in my view, in the next 5 years, you don't necessarily need to live in the center of Lisbon. Maybe you want to go to Setúbal, or you don't want to live in Milan, but maybe you want to go in Palermo. I'm not Sicilian, but I have to say, guys, one of the best quality of life is in Sicily. There are also tax advantages, and the cost is considerably lower than, for example, Milan or Tuscany. So,
also, another really interesting spot, Madeira, which is Portuguese.
Exactly.
And sheesh, who loves Madeira here, right?
Yeah.
It's really good.
And believe it or not, we have a lot of American clients now looking at the Azores as well.
Yeah.
And both of them under the NHR 2.0 will have special regimes.
They already have special taxation regimes,
which are more favorable than being here in the continent.
Yeah, reduced corporate tax, etc.
Wow.
If I'm not wrong, because I've never studied in depth for my own cases, but you go up to 5% taxation, if I'm not wrong, but with some certain caps in terms of revenues. I mean, to create local jobs, of course, but the requirements are very good. So again, this is going to be really something I will write next few months, because I mean, the next, in my view,
you're becoming a tax expert, a Portuguese tax expert, little by little.
I will submit my CV to the
Okay, good. You're maybe too expensive now because you're very well known online. But anyway,
But
Sonia.
Okay, good.
Live the tropical life. They're in Azores, in Madeira. It's like similar to Spain. Actually, they have a different regime for Canary Islands.
Yeah.
So you have an archipelago of 7 islands with El Teide, which is the tallest mountain. It's a volcano, but in Spain, I hiked it. The views are amazing from the top.
Same thing in the Azores. The
When you
biggest
go-
peak in Portugal is in the Azores.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you see the sunrise. It's incredible because the volcano is so high, the Teide, that you see the shade of the volcano reflecting on the clouds at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And when you're walking up, you see the sulfur leaving this gas that gives this mysterious vibe. It's almost lunar type of vibe. So yeah, I can imagine these with the tax regime of Madeira or Azores.
But that's
And people traveling across these islands,
Yeah.
you know, with the Starlink on the backpack or in the phone.
This is going to be, in my view, the 2.0, the nomadism, but also location-independent people 2.0, because in my view, there is too much advantage, and this will, in my view, will reshape the local economy and even the local markets, because, I mean, historically they are storage. There is also the famous TV series in Portuguese. I don't remember the title. I tried to learn Portuguese. Listen to that series.
That goes to the Azores. It's called Rabo de Peixe.
Rabo de Peixe, exactly. But they speak a kind of dialect, so for me it was like
It's not dialect. It's
an accent?
Portuguese with a very strong accent. Yeah.
But still, I try to practice there. Beautiful series. If someone wants to know more about, and
They're having season 2 now.
Yeah.
You're following the series.
Yeah.
the story of the story is, you know, objectively, the poverty level was very, very, is still, unfortunately,
It is, yeah.
hyper developed. So these mechanics, in my view, that's why it's good that we are chatting about now. People are very Madeira.
Yeah. Because the landscapes are crazy there in Madeira. Like the mountains. I've seen pictures of, for example, Gabriel was shooting there. It's like
It is.
These islands, there are maybe for specific offerings, there are sometimes the best maybe suppliers. For example, I know that this sounds, for Portuguese water dogs, one of the best, breeder, it's in Madeira. So one of the most famous worldwide, I guess, Portuguese water dogs breeder, which actually continue the heritage of this breed, the PWD, which is the same dog of Barack Obama had. Do you remember?
Yeah, there was.
Is in Madeira, so you must go there and then think of. I think in the next 3 years we will see big changes in it.
Yep.
amazing. So bright feature both for the taxes, favorable taxes, the citizenship. Now people being able to get through exposure, indirect exposure, or indirectly holding this Bitcoin, right? Through the ETFs, BlackRock ETFs, correct?
Correct.
And being able to then travel around different territories of Portugal. Also another thing that it's not mentioned, but it's something that I talk in different videos. When you get citizenship in one country that has some connection with another, in this case Mexico or Latin America with Spain, people can go to Spain instead of naturalizing 10 years. They can do it in just 2 after they hold one of these Latin passports. If people hold a Portuguese passport with Brazilians and they learn Portuguese, they are kind of unlocking indirectly,
They may,
access to a whole, almost a continent. It's a country that is a continent. So just by learning the language and being a bit more emotionally attached, back to what you said before, Filipe, they can now resonate much more with the culture.
Absolutely.
That it's much different. I mean, I've been living in Brazil for 1.5 years.
Okay.
Florianópolis, João Pessoa, like all around, from north to south. And I see similarities, but it's still 2 different worlds. But when you learn the language, I learned the Brazilian Portuguese. I come here and I can talk as a kind of more a local, right? And connect like this. Versus before I lived in Brazil, that I visited already Lisbon, but I knew nothing. No Portuguese. So it's magical to see
the language, especially Portuguese, Spanish, of course, but Spanish has a bigger dimension. But you have 250 million speakers of Portuguese that go through Africa, Latin America, and all the way to Asia. So it's a language that mingles you with a bigger community. And there's actually an association called the CPLP, which is the Association of the Portuguese-speaking countries. So, I mean, it means being part of a bigger community for sure. I'm a visitor to Angola and Mozambique.
Exactly.
And so it's amazing to visit those countries, speak the same language.
Cape Verde as well.
Cape Verde is
they
the same.
Speak Portuguese.
Yeah. And it makes me, I mean, it creates an immediate connection with people, which is amazing, of course.
In different continents, same language.
Yeah.
So that's another advantage.
And in the case, but it was something that I will try to double check because I didn't remember. Once you gain, for example, I as an Italian, if I start residing in other European countries, sometimes in 4 or 5 years I can apply for citizenship. It's considerably faster, okay, for Union member state citizens. So technically, if you become citizen of Portugal after 5, 6 years here, and then your kids or yourself, you after 20 years you want to live in, let's say, Poland for any possible reason, well, you will be able to also apply for that passport, of course, once you're residing, in this case, in Poland, after, I guess, well, for sure in less years. Have everything.
I'm not sure of how you get to be a citizenship in Poland, but yeah, as an EU citizen, what you have to do, you reach that country and you register yourself at the municipality as a resident. And then from there, you abide to whatever rules that each country has in terms of reaching citizenship.
Correct. And also the risk of rejection is going to be much lower because you already are a EU citizen. So there's not going to add any downside. It's just like facilities. We don't know which ones, and maybe the ones that are right now are going to be different in 10 years. But the probability says that in 10 years, if something has to change, it's going to favor people of the same settlement block. So having Portuguese citizenship will just add options, but not reduce them inside Europe, right? Of course. So, wanted to add something?
100%. No, and I would just added something where he starts discussing before, which is, as always, there is something that maybe Euro is unclear, and is citizen of a country is something completely different than being a resident or a fiscal resident. So, these concepts are very different, and you can be citizen of multiple countries as long as there is no one country, for bidding the dual citizenship. But then you can be resident in a different country. So in this case, in the Portuguese, golden visa FAF at least, there is no obligation of ever acquire the fiscal residency here or the long-term the residency here. It's a permanent it's a permit of residency. It's not an obligation to reside. And that's great. And in my view, it's one of the reasons why, in my view, the Portuguese programs have been the most successful.
Totally. We covered a lot in this time together. I think we are wrapping up. We are getting to an end to this. What would be some message or some point that we didn't touch on that you would like to include? Because we've covered from digital nomads, from the exposure to Bitcoin right away. Then we're going to have another part here where we're going to cover more the details. For example, the Unbound fund. We're going to go through all of these, but that can be with you. Of course. So we'll talk about investment decisions, how to subscribe, the subscription period, the fees, the golden visa, everything, right? So that's going to be a dedicated episode just to Unbound fund and the FAQ and how people can know more about this project. But I think this combination was perfect because we have the lawyer, we have the the founder, the one who had the idea, how you gents connected, and the benefits of becoming a citizen here in Portugal.
I think we did a great job as always.
We covered everything. I think.
Amazing.
I think we are very good at it.
So thank you both, and for everybody who is interested in knowing more, there are links are going to be in the description on how to connect with Filipe, how to connect with Ale, and whenever they're coming to Lisbon, they can come physically and meet because there's a home, there's a base, there's this office. Thank you as well for arranging it so we can film here and have this quiet time. We could have all the time in the world to chat about this. So
thank you so much, Miguel. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was super, super interesting, and I love to have this chat. So for me, it would be we could go on, but it's let's continue afterward. Then.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
No, our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.